There are nights when New York feels endless. Millions of lights, millions of windows, millions of people, and yet somehow people still feel alone. The city has always carried two stories at once. One story is ambition, steel, money, movement, noise. But the other story is survival. Immigrants arriving with empty pockets, families praying through hunger, workers collapsing from exhaustion, people sleeping beneath bridges while towers touched the clouds. New York became powerful because broken people kept refusing to disappear. And hidden inside that history was a deeper question. What happens when a human being reaches the end of themselves? What happens when fear becomes heavier than hope? What happens when someone whispers, "God, are you still there?" And maybe tonight, that person is you. Before the cities existed, before empires rose and collapsed, before humanity learned to build roads, governments, and machines, there was God. Not a distant force, not a myth created to comfort the weak, but the eternal Creator, infinite in wisdom, infinite in power, infinite in goodness. The one who formed the oceans, the one who placed the stars in the heavens, the one who knows every hidden fear inside the human soul. The ancient Christian faith teaches that there is one God, not divided, not incomplete, one eternal divine being. And yet within this mystery exist three distinct persons, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, perfectly united, perfectly eternal, perfectly holy. For centuries, people struggled to understand this mystery. Kings tried to explain it, philosophers argued about it, artists painted it, priests preached it. But perhaps the greatest truth was never meant to merely be analyzed. It was meant to be experienced. Because God was never trying only to prove his existence, he was trying to reach his children. New York did not become New York overnight. It was built by exhausted hands, Irish laborers, Italian immigrants, Jewish families escaping persecution, Black communities searching for dignity, workers who carried bricks through winter storms, mothers praying over empty tables. Many arrived with almost nothing except belief, and in the middle of all the struggle, church bells rang through the city. Tiny candle-lit chapels stood between factories and alleyways. People walked into those churches carrying grief too heavy for words. Some prayed for food, some prayed for healing, some prayed not to lose their minds. And somehow, through all the suffering, faith survived. Not because life became easy, but because something deep inside humanity still believed there was a God who sees, a God who listens, a God who whispers into hopelessness, "I will not let you die." The Christian faith declares something astonishing, that the eternal God did not remain distant. He entered human history. The divine Word became flesh, born not in luxury, not in political power, not inside a palace, but in weakness, in a stable, in Bethlehem. The one through whom galaxies were created entered the world as a child, fragile, poor, vulnerable. Why? Because humanity was drowning. Violence, pride, fear, hatred, sin. Generation after generation kept searching for meaning while destroying themselves. And heaven answered not with destruction, but with mercy. Jesus Christ came as both perfect God and perfect man, not partially divine, not merely a teacher, but the bridge between broken humanity and eternal holiness. And everywhere he went, people who felt forgotten suddenly felt seen. The rejected, the sick, the ashamed, the exhausted. He walked toward them, not away from them. Imagine hearing those words in your darkest moment. Trust me. Do not fear. I am with you. I will not let you die. Modern humanity has learned how to hide pain. We hide it behind success, behind jokes, behind social media, behind endless distractions. But deep down, many people are terrified. Terrified of failure, terrified of rejection, terrified of becoming irrelevant, terrified that their life means nothing, and perhaps the deepest fear of all, what if I was never enough? New York understands this fear. This city rewards strength, speed, confidence, performance. But souls cannot survive forever pretending. Eventually, the mask cracks, and when it does, people discover something painful. Human applause cannot heal spiritual emptiness. Money cannot silence existential fear. Fame cannot resurrect a dying heart. Only truth can do that. Only love can do that. Only God can enter the hidden places no human being can reach. There is something the world rarely tells you. Different does not mean defective. Some of the people most used by God in history were misunderstood. Too emotional, too intense, too quiet, too bold, too strange, too compassionate, too honest. The world often attacks what it does not understand. But maybe the very thing people mocked about you contains part of your purpose. Maybe your sensitivity was not weakness. Maybe your deep emotions were not accidents. Maybe your unusual perspective was not failure. Maybe you were built differently for a reason. There are souls you can reach that others cannot. Pain shaped you. Loneliness shaped you. Struggle shaped you. But God can transform suffering into wisdom. He can transform wounds into compassion. He can transform brokenness into testimony. So stop apologizing for existing. Stop trying to become a copy of everyone else. Embrace the way you were built. Not every flower grows in the same season. Not every star burns with the same intensity. Not every calling looks identical. Trust the one who created you, even when you cannot yet understand yourself. Imagine a man standing alone on a rooftop in New York. Snow falling. Sirens in the distance. Bills unpaid. Relationships shattered. Dreams collapsing, and inside his mind, only darkness. He stares at the city below and thinks, no one would notice if I disappeared. But then, a different voice interrupts the despair. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady, gentle, persistent. I will not let you die. The man closes his eyes. Memories begin returning. Childhood prayers, church candles, his grandmother whispering about God, moments he survived when he should have collapsed, and suddenly he realizes something. The reason he survived all those years was not luck. Grace had been carrying him, even through addiction, even through heartbreak, even through rage, even through isolation. God had not abandoned him, and maybe tonight, God has not abandoned you either. The old Christian teachings speak about providence, the belief that God continues to guide creation, not mechanically, not cruelly, but lovingly, even when humans cannot fully understand the path. Think about your own life, the moments you thought would destroy you, the heartbreaks, the delays, the unanswered questions, the seasons of loneliness. What if some of those moments were not proof of abandonment, but preparation. A seed buried underground looks dead, but hidden underneath the soil, life is forming. Perhaps God has been developing strength inside you that comfort never could. Perhaps survival itself became part of your mission, because one day another hurting soul may need your story, and your survival will become their evidence that hope still exists. There is a reason the story of Bethlehem still moves humanity. It reminds us that divine love entered ordinary suffering. The child born in a stable changed history forever, not through armies, not through wealth, not through fear, but through sacrificial love. And that love continues reaching into hospitals, into prisons, into apartments, into grieving families, into anxious minds, into sleepless nights. The message remains the same. You are seen, you are not forgotten, and your story is not over. There are people listening tonight who are exhausted. You have carried pain silently. You smile in public while fighting private battles. You wonder whether life will ever become lighter. Listen carefully. Darkness does not have the final word. Fear does not have the final word. Failure does not have the final word. God is still calling human beings toward hope, not because they earned it, but because divine mercy is greater than human brokenness. So if your soul is tired tonight, hear these words. I will not let you die. Trust me. Keep walking. Embrace the way you were created. Your life still carries purpose. One day, you may look back and realize the nights you thought were ending you were actually transforming you. And maybe that transformation begins tonight. May the God who created the stars guide the hearts of those who feel lost. May peace enter the minds filled with fear. May hope rise again inside exhausted souls. And may every person listening remember this. You are still here for a reason, even now, even after everything. Your story is not finished. May the God who created the stars guide the hearts of those who feel lost. May peace enter the minds filled with fear. May hope rise again inside exhausted souls. And may every person listening remember this. You are still here for a reason. Even now, even after everything, your story is not finished.